Why do we worry? It's that constant, low-level hum of anxiety about the future. Our health, our jobs, our relationships. It just feels like a basic part of being human these days. But what if I told you our brains weren't actually built for this modern world at all? In this explainer, we're going to pull apart that feeling, and then we're going to explore a really groundbreaking new approach to treatment that is challenging, well, pretty much everything we thought we knew. So, to understand our own anxiety, our journey starts somewhere a little unexpected, on the African savanna. Believe it or not, the answer to what a giraffe can teach us about worry really shines a light on this fundamental mismatch between our ancient brains and our modern lives. Okay, so there's this author, James Clear, and he makes this brilliant observation. Animals, like giraffes, they live in what he calls an immediate return environment. Basically, their world is all about direct, instant cause and effect. Think about it, right? Is a giraffe stressing about its retirement plan? Nope. If it's hungry, it finds a tree and eats. Problem solved, right then and there. If a lion shows up, it runs. Threat gone. Every action has an immediate result, and its brain is perfectly wired for exactly that reality. But here's the thing, and this is the crucial part. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in a delayed return environment. The things we do today, like saving for retirement, or building a career, or trying to eat healthy, we often don't see the payoff for months or even years. And that huge gap, that's where all the trouble starts. So you've got these ancient brains evolved for the immediate world of the savannah, and they're now trying to deal with these abstract, long-term problems. We're running ancient hardware to solve modern challenges. And that basic mismatch, well, it generates that constant, chronic sense of unease we call anxiety. And when that worry just won't quit, when it becomes persistent and uncontrollable and genuinely distressing, that's when it gets a clinical name, generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. And it's a condition that can seriously get in the way of work, your social life, your whole quality of life, really. So this evolutionary mismatch kind of sets the stage for anxiety in pretty much all of us. But for some people, that baseline worry is cranked up to 11 by something else, the lingering echo of past trauma. As Connects Ontario points out here, the stuff that happens to us when we're kids doesn't just vanish. It can fundamentally reshape how we handle stress for the rest of our lives, creating a fertile ground where anxiety disorders can really take root. And the impact of this is profound. You can see it right here. Early trauma can literally rewire our nervous system. It puts our stress response on a hair trigger, so we're always on high alert. That makes it way harder to manage our emotions and can lock us into these patterns of fear and avoidance. It's a vicious cycle that just dramatically increases the risk for clinical anxiety and depression. Okay, so given this really complex picture, how have we traditionally treated this kind of all-consuming worry? Well, for a very long time, there's been one clear gold standard approach. And that treatment is cognitive behavioral therapy. You've probably heard of it as CBT. It's the most researched, most supported psychotherapy for GAD. The main idea is to help you spot, challenge, and then change those catastrophic or negative thought patterns. And it's often paired with things like relaxation exercises. And look, CBT works. Decades of research show that it helps about half of all patients see some really significant improvement. And a 50% success rate? That's actually a huge achievement in mental health. But it also means that for the other half, it's not the complete answer, which naturally led researchers to ask a really important question. Could there be an even better way? And that question brings us to a landmark study that basically decided to put the gold standard to the test against a brand new challenger. So back in 2018, a team of researchers in Norway set up this really rigorous head-to-head competition. They took patients with long-term GAD and they compared CBT directly against this newer approach called metacognitive therapy, or MCT. So what's the big difference? Well, CBT really focuses on the content of your worries. It teaches you to ask, is this thought actually true? Is it realistic? And then you work to change it. But MCT, it takes a step back. It focuses on the process of your thinking. It asks a totally different question. Why am I giving this thought so much attention in the first place? The goal isn't to change the thought. It's to change your entire relationship with it. It's a really subtle but profound difference, right? The researchers set up this head-to-head trial, controlling for everything they could. So, which therapy came out on top? The results were, well, they were stunning. Just look at the patient recovery rates. The gold standard, CBT, came in at a respectable 38%. But the patients who used metacognitive therapy, their recovery rate shot all the way up to 65%. Let's just sit with that number for a second. 65%. That is a massive leap forward from what we thought was the best we could do. This wasn't just a small improvement, this was a game changer. And this wasn't just some short-term fluke either. When the researchers followed up with the patients 2 years later, that huge difference was still there. The benefits of metacognitive therapy were built to last. So the results are pretty clear. But why? What is the secret sauce in metacognitive therapy that makes it so much more powerful? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but kind of radical idea: learning to think about how you think. This is what we call the power of metacognition. See, where CBT can sometimes feel like you're in a constant battle with your negative thoughts, MCT just steps away from the fight. It targets the beliefs you have about the act of worrying itself. Beliefs like, my worrying is completely uncontrollable, or just having these thoughts is dangerous. And this reveals the therapy's incredibly powerful goal. It's not the impossible task of trying to stop worried thoughts from ever popping into your head. Instead, it aims to prove to you that you have complete control over how you respond to them. You can learn to just notice a thought and then choose to let it go, breaking that whole cycle of worry before it even gets going. Which leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. For centuries, we've tried to defeat worry, right? To fight it, to silence it, to push it away. But what if that was the wrong approach the entire time? What if the real secret isn't to stop worrying, but just to change how